Cbeebies Bedtime Story.
If I look at it like this, it's round. But if I look at it like this, it's flat. Oh, hello. I'm Romola. I was just working out what shape this piece of cheese is and what it looks like. If I look at it like this, it's round. But if I look at it like this, it's very thin and very flat. What do you think it looks like? A football? A bicycle wheel? I don't know. But I know someone who can help us. Nibbles the mouse. And he's in tonight's bedtime story. It's by Janet Bingham and Rosalind Beardshaw, and it's called Goodnight Magic Moon. Nibbles was gathering blackberries in the moonlight. "Catch, Mummy," he called. Nibbles smiled proudly at his pile of juicy berries. "You found a lovely big supper this evening," said Mummy. "It was easy," replied Nibbles. "It's almost as light as daytime." "That's because there's a beautiful round moon tonight." On the next night, Nibbles and Mummy searched for acorns. The night was still bright, but the moon had changed shape. "The moon is shrinking," gasped Nibbles. But then Mummy explained that the moon mice had begun their moon feast. "They nibble away at the moon each night until it's all gone," she said, "and then it grows again until it's as round and bright as before." Each evening after that, the moon grew thinner and the nights grew darker. Nibbles found the sunflower seeds under the three-quarter moon, rose hips under the half moon, hazelnuts under the quarter moon, and toadstools under the thin curve of the crescent moon. Then, one night, there was no moon at all. "The moon is all gone," said Nibbles. "Don't worry," said Mummy. "The moon mice always leave a tiny edge, too small for us to see. Then they sprinkle it with stardust so the moon can grow again." It was so dark that Nibbles and Mummy had to use their noses to find their supper. Nibbles sniffed the air. "I smell something," he said. "Something very, very nice." Mummy and Nibbles followed the delicious smell across the field. "It looks like the moon, fallen down from the sky," said Nibbles. "So it does," agreed Mummy. "But it's not the moon. It's a cheese. The biggest, roundest, most moon-like cheese I've ever seen. You are clever, Nibbles." "We can eat it all up," giggled Nibbles. "A whole moon cheese just for us." Just then, a very old mouse came along. "What a marvellous cheese!" she exclaimed. "Hello, Mrs. Elder Mouse," said Mummy. "Isn't it fine? Nibbles found it." Mrs. Elder Mouse smiled kindly at Nibbles. "Well done, little mouse," she said. "I hope you enjoy your special supper." Nibbles watched Mrs. Elder Mouse hobble away. She looked very tired and hungry. Nibbles looked at his cheese. He looked back at Mrs. Elder Mouse. Then he took a deep breath and called out, "Would you like some? It's big enough to share." Mummy broke the cheese into 3 pieces, and Nibbles handed Mrs. Elder Mouse a piece to take home. "Thank you, Nibbles," she said, taking a bite. "It's delicious." Nibbles and Mummy ate their cheese as they walked back to the nest. "It was kind of you to share your cheese, Nibbles," said Mummy. "I'm so proud of you. And if the moon mice were watching, they would be proud of you too." Nibbles happily nibbled his cheese until only a thin curved edge was left. He held it up to the starry sky, and they followed the moon shape all the way home. Back at the nest, Nibbles tumbled inside with a yawn. "Time for bed, sleepyhead," smiled Mummy. She tucked him in and began a bedtime story. "Once there was a mouse," said Mummy, "who found a round cheese, just like yours. He was a very good little mouse, just like you. He shared his cheese with all the other mice until only a tiny bit was left. The moon mice looked down from the sky and saw what a good mouse he was. So while he slept, they sprinkled stardust on his last little bit of cheese. And when the mouse woke up, the tiny little bit was whole again, as big and round as before, and as magic as the moon." Nibbles smiled sleepily. "I shared too, didn't I?" he said. "You did. You were a very good little mouse." "Is my cheese magic like the moon?" asked Nibbles. "Maybe," smiled Mummy. "Let's hope the moon mice are watching. Good night, little Nibbles." "Good night, Mummy," said Nibbles. "And good night, Magic Moon." Then, before he closed his eyes, he put the last little bit of cheese down carefully beside his bed, just in case. And that story was called Goodnight Magic Moon. So that's what this cheese looks like. The moon. I wonder if the moon mice are watching us. I'll have a look. And while I do, it's time for you to go to bed and close your eyes, just like Nibbles. I'll see you soon for another story. Night-night. Where are you, moon mice? Let's see if I can spot you.